Well, appreciate everybody being here today. Obviously, big day for us, getting back on the practice field for an unbelievable challenge coming up this weekend down in Jonesboro. Got a chance on the bye week to really address some issues, clean some things up, get some recruiting done, get ahead on some of our opponents that are upcoming, make some fundamental program adjustments that we kind of had mapped out back in the summer. And now we got to get prepared for a really good Arkansas State football team that's playing extremely well. Arguably the hottest team in the conference right now on a 4-game win streak. Doing a really good job of finding ways to have gritty wins. I truly believe good teams find ways to win games, bad teams find ways to lose them. Over the last month, Arkansas State has done a really good job of finding ways to win games. Coach Butch Jones does a phenomenal job. You can see the culture, you can see the process that they have, how they go about it. I think they play extremely hard on both sides of the ball. I think their quarterback is arguably the best quarterback in the conference. I can't rate ours because obviously I'm a little bit biased, but the kid's dangerous. He can make all the throws. Obviously, he can activate his legs. I think he's taken a step in growth from last year to this year, or from when he was a freshman and we played him at the other place. He's not just pulling the ball down to run now. He's pulling it down and still keeping his eyes downfield, which creates a whole nother set of issues. I think their O-line does a really good job of finishing blocks. Probably the best group of receivers as a core that we've faced all year. Offensively, they stress you with different formations. They play with tempo. You always got to have a quarterback player with eyes on the quarterback, probably 2 quarterback players because of his ability, which takes guys out of coverage or out of your run fits. Or they have dual responsibilities. They got a run fit and a quarterback responsibility, which is all extremely tough. Defensively, their defensive line probably plays as hard as any group we've seen. They play with a high motor, a lot of effort. The back end, they stress you with a lot of different coverages. I think they're doing a really good job of mixing up different looks to formations. So it's going to be a challenge. I expect a really hostile environment. Their fans do a really good job of supporting. So I expect 11 o'clock kickoff to be rocking down there in their stadium. I've never been there, but I've heard it's one of the nicer stadiums and setups in the conference. They've done a really good job over the history of their time in this league of improving facilities and improving their profile. So it's going to be a challenge for us. By no means are we overlooking them. Truly, the word appropriate fear comes into play. Probably for the head coach here, it's a little bit more of true fear when you watch these guys play. Even when you watch games in the beginning of the season when they were, battling the schedule of P4 teams and those type of teams, they were in the games. And 1 or 2 plays here didn't go their way. The last 4 games, those plays have gone their way, but they've never been out of a game. They've never been blown out, if that makes sense. Arkansas is probably the biggest score differential that they've had, even against Iowa State. They're in the game. They're competing. Couple plays here or there, even games where they get behind Texas State, Georgia Southern, Kennesaw State. Even though they lost that game, they battled back at the very end. So they're definitely a scary team. We've got a lot of work to do to focus on what we can control and how we play. It starts with how we prepare. I thought we had a really good day yesterday. Even over the break, our leaders had guys watching film. Braylon, Chris Jones, those guys are in the group text making sure guys are watching the game, even though we were, off that week. When they came in Sunday, they came in with a really good knowledge base, a little bit farther ahead than some of our opponents. So we've got to continue to prepare the rest of this week, and then we got to go play really well. Doesn't matter, how much attention you put on the team if you don't go out and execute. So our players are fully understanding what we're walking into. We got to finish this week off the right way.
Coach, that you alluded to it already. Coach Jones, I hit that bye week. It almost just from what I've been able to read, he just reevaluated everything. And really got it dialed in. Can you point to anything that you saw that maybe they did differently?
I don't know.
Easier for Rayner?
Yeah, I don't know if how they were doing things at the beginning. I do know when you look at your schedule and you got some P4 opponents, it changes how you kind of install. You got to try and run things that you think are going to give you a chance, which may not be your base. You look at what we did against Mississippi State compared to what we're doing now. It's different. I think, again, in today's college football, depending on how you go through camp, we put a lot of time into getting to know guys, getting the culture right. Depending on how you do that, depends on how quickly guys gel. Depending on how you do that, you get an idea of, from a coach's perspective, who is this guy? Some of the guys that you don't know or you don't get until maybe June. Well, who is this guy? When he's not getting the reps that he wanted to, or when he's not having the success, or when something goes on at home. I think that takes time. We've been in a really good situation. Obviously, we know a lot of our guys, so that helps. The guys that we didn't know, it allowed me to focus a little bit more on those guys particularly, because we had kind of already had a knowledge base of a good group of guys. Doesn't mean that group that we know still doesn't need to be coached, developed, all of those things, but you can put a little bit more intentional work on getting to know some of the new guys. I think that takes time. I think what has happened is the mistakes or the things that didn't go well for them early in the season are going well for them now, and momentum is real. Once you can see, their confidence is high. They're playing with a lot more. Kids call it swagger. Whatever you want to say. It's really confidence. They're playing with a lot more confidence now, knowing that, hey, we can win these games regardless of what happens first play, second play, third play. And you can see that as you watch, the film as the game goes on. There's some moments in there where there's a lot of teams that would pack it in because of the score. This team doesn't do that. They actually get more dangerous, as the game goes on. So it's going to be a challenge.
Is it easier for the defense to prepare for a quarterback like Rayner because they see Braylon Braxton in practice? Obviously, Braxton's not live, but they have the same similar skill running, passing.
It's difficult because, again, getting the person on the ground is the tough part, right? If we went out there and played two-hand touch, we'd be okay. I mean, we may be able to get one hand on the guy, but when you got to get the guy on the ground, that's the tough part. And then getting him on the ground at full speed, space, understanding all the situational things that go with it, that's what makes it tough. As far as playing coverage or the routes or rushing, that's not as difficult as actually getting the guy on the ground. That's the tough part. And it changes how you approach a guy when he has the ability to make you miss, when he has the ability to pull it and run. When he has the ability to pull it, run, still make a throw, that makes it tough. So you could say when Braylon takes off in practice, we know how to run to a running quarterback, but I don't know if we went live, if we'd get Braylon on the ground every time. So those are the things that are a little bit more difficult to kind of carry into a game. The actual playing the plays, we can cover the routes, we can be in the right spots. Actually getting people on the ground is the tough part, and when you have a guy that is that electric like Rayner is, getting him on the ground is tough, because not only do you have to rush from a pass perspective with really good discipline, you got to be ready once I reach the ear of the quarterback. If I ain't to him, I got to retrace. Well, when I retrace, is he making a throw? Is he stepping up? Is he checking it down? Is he throwing the ball? Whatever it may be. It just makes it more difficult when you actually have to get a person on the ground. Tackling in space is probably the hardest thing to do in football, next to blocking in space. That's why special teams is such a difficult thing to do. You got a guy running full speed at you. I got to block him, in space. It's hard to tackle a human in space. That's really hard, especially as athletic as Rayner.
What do you think the team improved on the most during the bye week?
Yeah, I thought we did a really good job. We had kind of mapped it out. Every three, or when you look at the the bye weeks we've had one every 3-4 weeks. So we've wanted to add a little bit of something to our offense, defense, and special teams each time we got a bye week, because you get a little bit more time to slow down the teaching. You're not cross-teaching where you're teaching something new and a new game plan. So I thought they did a really good job of absorbing the new, because it's really just another step off of what we're doing, but absorbing the new. I thought they did a really good job of managing how we manage the reps. The ones still needed to get their reps, but how we got the twos involved. That can become a distraction, because if you're used to taking 100 reps and you're only taking 80, you could mentally get distant. But I thought they stayed locked into what we were trying to do. And then I thought we did a really good job of our preliminary pre-scouts on some of the teams, right? It's hard to get ready for a game when you don't have a game. But the mental disposition to understand that the time that we had to use the right way, I thought they handled that well.
Arkansas State defensively, it looked like last week they were really creating a lot of pressure. What did you just notice, and how do you kind of prepare for their defensive line this week?
Yeah, I thought, again, they made some really good plays schematically, but I don't know, they got 9 sacks. I don't know the exact number, but a good bit of those were effort sacks. I mean, they were just out-efforting the opponent. It wasn't always a perfect twist or call. It was just some guys who had a relentless mindset of getting to the quarterback, and that's the part that's tough. You can scheme up and block a scheme, block a twist, block a slant, block a blitz. But when a guy makes his mind up that I'm getting to the quarterback, that's difficult to say this is how we're going to stop it. It takes the other guy on the other side saying that I got an unbelievable determination not to let you get to the quarterback. So I thought they did a really good job with their effort. I thought they did a really good job of having discipline in their rush. They weren't just running up the field. They had discipline in their rush lanes, and then their unbelievable desire or relentless pursuit to get to the quarterback. It seemed like as they got 1, they got 2, and they got 3, and they got 4. That's the part that makes them really dangerous.
Coach, off of Scott's question, I mean, they quickly made Troy one-dimensional and then feasted on the QB. Talk about the importance of the plan to stay balanced.
Yeah, I think you got to have a plan. If they take something completely away, they can really hone in on the other, and I think that's a little bit of what happened with Troy. They were able to do a really good job of stopping the run, which put Troy in some positions to have to throw, and they were able to take advantage of that. So we've got to do a really good job of staying balanced, and that doesn't necessarily mean 50-50, but that means staying ahead of the sticks, putting yourself in advantageous situations, being able to stay out of 3rd and longs, to be able to run the ball with efficiency, meaning when we need to run it, we can run it. Not saying that every run's going to go for 80 yards, but understanding that the run balance keeps linebackers from just either dropping or keeps linebackers from just flying downhill. It keeps D linemen from just pass rushing. So that balance on offense is going to be key.
Do you expect Jeffrey Pittman to be back this week?
Yeah, he was really good. The pitch counts are about balanced, now from all 3 of those guys. Jalen Carter even helped out a little bit with that in the game. So feel good about that. That'll help the run game, hopefully, that we can block these guys and get some. We're going to need all of them, and that was kind of the reason. We were kind of, let's be pitch count cautious here. We got a bye week coming up, and then we've got a stretch here that we don't get another break. So we need to make sure that we've been blessed. I think it's a combination of the good Lord takes care of you. I think our nutrition and strength conditioning program is phenomenal. Knock on wood, we've been moderately healthy, which gives us a chance to continue to rotate guys, which gives us a chance to stay we just have variety in what we do. It's not like, hey, this guy's out, so we got to do this. So that's a big piece of what we're, hoping the next couple of weeks will allow us to do, which can give us some advantage down the road.
Just a thought, don't know where I'm really going with it, just curious, really.
Is this on your show, or is this just for me?
No, just me and you.
Okay, all right, good. Go ahead.
Braylon last year was a real run weapon for you guys, the design run stuff. You haven't had to do that so much here, or not so much.
We haven't called it.
Just
Yet.
Yeah, hadn't done it yet. Well, that's where I'm going with this. And you talked about adding some things. Things get tougher as you go. Games get bigger. I mean, he's obviously a weapon in that regard. Just maybe expound on that thought a little bit.
Yeah, you work for FanDuel now, or you and Butch like cousins, or you want to give the game plan? Yeah, he probably did. It's a good guy. Yeah, there's a lot. There's some offensive things that we've got to do, and you got to kind of, do you run him against Mississippi State and run the risk of the next 8, 9, 10 games, being in a different situation? Do you run him early in the season if you don't have to, or do you run him as you get close to crunch time? Those are decisions you got to make. Defensively, there's some things that we've been adding to the defense. Well, when do you spring them out? Some of that is situational based. Some of that is opponent based. There's some things that we had to do last week that we don't have to do this week because of the personnel and formations and type of offense that is we're going against. Special teams wise, we haven't run trick plays on special teams yet. We've been repping them since August. When do you spring them out? I think all that goes into it, and that's what the bye week was really about. Okay, what have we been doing that we can prime up to be ready? What have we been waiting on prime up to be ready? A big thing, I'm probably like the paranoid, lieutenant. We changed all our signals, over the bye week. Not because, I don't think there's Spygate, or I don't think the guy from Michigan is working for Butch, although Butch did work at Central Michigan. I just think at some point when you're good, people have to find ways to, attack you. So obviously you can't switch signals in the middle of a week when you're trying to install and get game plan ready. So we were able to go a full week with these new signals, new signal operation. I think that's a big piece of it. Is it because we're playing Arkansas State? No, it's because we had a bye week midway through the year, and you got to check your own oil, right? We did a huge self-scout. There are some formations that we line up to the exact same every time. Well, we can't do that anymore. There's some formations on offense that, we line up in and we're, 90% this or 90% that. Well, we can't do that anymore. That's just common sense. So a little bit of what you're getting to, now do we use it all this week, or is there something down the road? That will be, you have to wait till 11 o'clock on Saturday to see that. But all of that, how much do you run Braylon? When do you call the trick plays? When do you change your tendencies? When do you change your signals? Did it make sense to change them in the first bye week? No, we had 3-4 games on film. So you're changing them to change them again. Does it make sense to, at this point we've got some guys who have played limited reps who've done a really good job. How much more do they get when you start rotating guys? Being healthy is a positive. You can rotate some more guys. Having a group of running backs where their pitch counts are similar means now we don't have to watch, Pittman's at 31. That's a lot. He's hot, though. You can't take him out. Now we can kind of roll the dice and play them as they come. So there's a lot of things that, in this next part of the season, we've been priming for that we got to use at the right time, if that makes sense.
Coach, you've mentioned in the past how at times defensive line can be a little bit undisciplined as the weeks have kind of gone on, and off a bye week. How do you feel like they can maybe improve on that, or if they have?
Yeah, I think every week it's a new challenge. There's different ways. When you talk about run gap accountability, depending on the type of front you're playing, depending on the type of team you're playing. Do you want to be an upfield defense? Do you want to be a gap control defense? Do you want to keep the backers free? Do you want to tie the backers down? I think over the course of the season, our guys have been able to adapt well. I think this is going to be a completely new challenge. I don't think we've faced any quarterback anywhere near where Rayner is from a complete threat. We've had some guys that could throw it. I thought Chapin could throw it well. The guy from, I believe it was Jacksonville State, had some mobility. But putting the two together where they can beat you with your arm and their legs and the mental piece. I mean, he gets the ball up and out quick. That means he knows where it should be going early. He's not holding on to it. He has not been sacked a lot, which means he's fully understanding that, hey, I've got a time clock in my head. I've got to go 1 to 2 to 3, get out of here, 1 to 2 to 3, step up, check it down. This play's dead to the right, so I got to go to the left. You can see that in his kind of progression, throughout games. So our D-line is going to have to do a great job of kind of adapting for this week because it's a little bit different.
Coach, how about the offensive line? Despite the fact a lot of new guys that have never really played together, it seems like they've become pretty much a good unit. What have you seen there? What do you kind of attribute that to?
Yeah, well, one, to them, because they've put a lot of work in. They work really hard. Coach Coughlin, Coach Gibbs, I mean, they work at it. I think, two, we've been able to stay moderately healthy. So we've been able to keep guys in their bus seats. The more continuity you have with that unit, the more consistency you should have. And then I think, again, we've got some older, mature guys, and they've been able to self-assess, what do I need to do to get ready to practice? What do I need to do to get ready to meet? What do I need to do to get ready to play? And then there's a high accountability level in that room. Like, no one wants to be the guy that gets Braylon hit. No one wants to be the guy that gives up a negative, play. So a lot of testament to them. They've done a really good job, and they're developing. They're getting better, more and more consistent. And then finally, I think Blake's done a really good job of okay, this is what we can do. We're going to ask them to do what they can do and minimize, with their deficiencies. And I think that's really helped them. It's helped build some confidence, and hopefully that can continue Saturday afternoon.
I'm just curious to know how you feel, how Jack Murley has grown, since the time he came in. I know he had a personal week, but how he's kind of improved throughout the season.
Yeah, I think, again, when you look back, that word development is fickle, right? I mean, you say it and people think it means 4 years. You say it and it's like, well, when they're going to develop. I think he's a perfect example of it. I mean, he came in new to the game, was here, a month, obviously in camp, got here middle of camp, first couple weeks of the season. He's starting to get a little bit of a rhythm, first time in a game, and all of a sudden he's got a setback. Then he's gone for 2 weeks, and it takes him a week to get back. And now you're starting to see a little consistency show up. He's been able to down some punts inside the 5, which are huge. He's been able to give us some kick variety, with the different types of kicks he can do. And he started to develop some confidence. He's starting to tell us, hey, I want to hit this kick, or, hey, I like it in the wind this way. But I think that's what development is about. And the tough part, especially at specialists, is you got to do it in a game. You can go over on the putting green and you can putt like Tiger, but when there's a million people watching at home and you're at Augusta, that putter shakes a little bit, so you got to get in a game to actually do it. And I think that's what's helped him, really come on these last couple of weeks. He's been a huge asset to us, flipping the field when we need to, pinning teams deep when we need to. It's given us the ability to relieve Reed from some punting and kicking duties, which I think he has improved because of it. And overall, our special teams is playing a lot more consistent. You're going to be explosive on the special team when you got explosive returners. That's what it's going to be. And then typically at this point in the season, if you do have explosive returners, you probably don't get too many chances, right? Teams are going to kick away from you, whatever it may be. But when you have consistent kickers, punters, snappers, you should see consistency in your special teams, and we're starting to see that.
Anything else?
All right, thanks, guys. Really appreciate you guys. Look forward to seeing you guys down in Jonesboro this weekend. Southern Miss?